definition of what we call winging it, but we're gonna see. I'm using my old PC because, well, actually, first off, I hope you guys can hear me all right and everything. Hello, test, wifey, if you can't, let me know. But I'm still using my parts of my old PC because I don't have OBS and everything set up on my new one yet because life has been crazy. But I really wanted to stream tonight for you guys, even though my outward appearance may not suggest otherwise. We survived the tornadoes and the thunderstorms. Some of the stuff, you can't really see it, but some of the stuff on my shelves back there ended up falling off because the wind and the thunder was so strong. But everything is back to normal-ish now. Eventually I'm going to get OBS set up on my new system and everything, and hopefully by Tuesday, when I want to do my next speculation stream and expand a little bit on what I'm going to talk about tonight, things are going to look a little more formal. But right now, my lights are still set up for my green screen and everything with a sleeping cat that you may or may not be able to kind of see. I can't really tell. And I was working already for 10 hours on videos today, so things are going to be a little haphazard, but there's a few things that I really wanted to discuss. I also think I saw Zombie Chris post that he said he was going to be going live at around 8 o'clock tonight, which should be an hour for all of you East Coasters. So I wanted to make sure that I got something done before then, so that way, you know, I could go support him and you guys could support his channel as well, because that's what we should be doing as an HHN community and just as small creators in general. Let me see if I can get my chat popped up, because I don't know where that went. And then we'll try and salvage something out of all of this haphazard rush. Once again, welcome everyone. Also, I'm going to post a link in my Discord for this video description at some point, probably after the video, probably the first thing I do. But if you guys ever want to talk about HHN speculation with me or just anything in general, hit me up. I'm always in there. I'm always bored, wanting to talk to people, so. Woo, okay. I also have a new monitor and everything, so like the setup is not working as great as I wanted it to be, but again, issues that'll hopefully be addressed by our more formal stream on Tuesday next week after a lovely weekend of work. Let's see. So, let's go ahead and get started here. If anyone, if everything could not close on me, that would be spectacular. Ooh. Oh, somebody posted something. Where did my chat go again? What's up? Yes. Hello, Pierre and Mike Pat. Yes. I'm going to go through, I think it is Ghostbusters. I'm going to go through real quick just on the spec map. I at least want to get my thoughts out there, especially in case any more storms come in and decide to decimate our lives. But I'm going to go through what I want to get through, and then I'll leave the forum a little more open for questions if you guys have anything or if you want to chat a little bit more. Because there's a lot of things that I think I figured out today while I was working on HHN trivia that I don't think I've seen mentioned anywhere. So I'm just going to dive right into it. Starting with South America and Soundstage 23A, I think most... Hi, Cohen. You can be on TV if you want. Come here. Soundstage 23A, I think most obviously, at least to me, that's our Oddfellow clue. Jungle of Doom, last year. That's not only where Dr. Oddfellow got his power, but also where he got the Cane of Souls. Who else is very, very, very much in love with the Cane of Souls? None other than Jack the Clown. So depending on how deeply you want to read into the clue, this could either just be something as surface level as Jungle of Doom actually gets translated into a haunt for the first time since 2002, and there's a more cohesive storyline, or maybe if we dig deeper, South America leads to Cane of Souls, which then leads to Jack versus Oddfellow, which, if you watch my speculation video a couple of months ago and or have talked to me in the last 5 months since HHN ended, or started for that matter, I firmly believe that we're going to get some type of Jack versus Oddfellow content. It just makes too much sense. Given how popular Oddfellow was in the park, the line to just meet up with him and discuss things with him and just talk and get a photo at the front of the park was like always nuts. I could hardly get any footage of him on the, whatever, 8 nights that I went, 10 nights that I went, because there was always people crowding him all night. And if that's not a sign of popularity or a sign that the stories that they've created are a success, I don't know what is. But I would 100% bet on Jack or Oddfellow's return this year, and I think that South America clue is what's going to lead us to that. Now, moving up, I don't even know if you guys can see my mouse if I move it. Oh, you can. Yay. Moving up to Soundstage 22 here. Also, you guys will see film reels, which I'm assuming means IPs. Also, quick shout out to Horror Night Nightmares for actually doing all of this, because we wouldn't be here without them. So thank you everyone, and also thank you to every other HHN creator who's provided input on this so we can get to where we are today. But anyways, Soundstage 22, honestly, this gives me kind of Predator vibes from the skull, but I think this is leaning more towards Dracula, but not necessarily the Dracula we are familiar with. I think this is going to be for Abigail, which, if you see the thumbnail, is an upcoming Universal's release, and I think technically Abigail is supposed to be the daughter of Dracula in that story, but from when I saw the first trailer of that haunt, if you guys haven't, or for that movie, if you guys haven't seen the trailer, by the way, go watch it, because it actually looks pretty decent, and it's got a lot of, radio silence talent and scream talent from the recent reboot, so want to support them for sure. But everything about that haunt kind of I keep saying haunt. I'm that set on it, apparently. Everything about that trailer, kind of like watching some Blumhouse films in the past, just looks like it would be tailor-made for HHN. We've seen sets that look similar before. We've seen concepts that are similar before. It seems like this is a very easy way that Universal can use their synergy. They can not only advertise one of their brand new films that's coming out, or will have come out at that point, but they can also make a really cool haunt for relatively cheap for it, at least in my opinion. So I'm putting all of my cards as of right now on Soundstage 22 being Abigail. And if it's not, well, I'll be a little bit disappointed, because I think Abigail looks pretty baller. Moving up, Soundstage 23B, as said in the chat here, Cadillac. I'm fairly certain that this is going to be after Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. We didn't really get anything for Ghostbusters Afterlife when that came out a few years ago, but Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is all about, at least appears to be, all about big budget special effects, which were the things that work the best about the first Ghostbusters iteration at HHN 29, at least in my opinion. So what way to bring Ghostbusters back than to do something that's a little bit bigger and a little bit better, and it seems like Frozen Empire is the perfect segue for them to be able to do that. Of course, Beetlejuice is also coming out this year, or Beetlejuice, whatever it's called. But I think Ghostbusters has the edge in being able to be translated better as a haunted event attraction than Beetlejuice does. And I think if it comes out down to it, Ghostbusters is going to win. Again, we don't really have Stranger Things this year. We don't really have an 80s nostalgia, at least on this map yet, except for Ghostbusters. And given how much of a staple they've been pretty much for the last 5 years, I would say that Ghostbusters is pretty much a lock, at least in my opinion. Moving on now to Soundstage 24. Now, I know I said I was going to answer questions at the end, but if you guys have anything else you want to say, you're more than welcome to post in the chat, and I can do my anecdotes and everything and whatnot. You guys don't need to just watch me rant or monologue my heart out. I'm not even doing an Oscar-worthy performance right now. But anyways, Soundstage 24A. This is the one that has me most intrigued, and this is the one that I probably should have started with, but I think we've cracked the code on it. Oh god, everything on my PC is still a little wonky here, so I'm going to see if I can actually pull up. Let's see here. What's the best way to do this? I'll move over here. Hi, you guys get to see me now. So, the skull, if you guys did not notice, the skull here is the exact same one that was used on the Tribute store last year at HHN. As my loud keyboard as I try and find a picture for it. Let's see. The only thing that's different about it is that the jaw has well, two things different. The main one is that the jaw has been chopped off of the bottom, which is why the shape looks a little abnormal. I had a picture pulled up earlier, but I lost it when the power surge happened, so I don't know. Haha, here it is. So you guys can kind of see, if you just cover the bottom part there, cover it where it says certified fan. Oops, wrong screen. Exact same image. The only thing is, of course, they've taken the Tribute Store Comics thing off. But the other thing to note is that they have made it black and white. Not, you know, monochromatic black and white, but half black and half white. Now, what would the point of making... Well, they've already edited this image to cut off the jaw to make it a little more... a little less obvious, I should say, about what it potentially could be, but why also edit it to make it half black and half white? And that is what leads me to the theory that this is going to be a Legendary Truth haunt or something with Boris Schuster. Because if you remember last year's Tribute Store, False Idols Part 2, that was all black and white and was heavily influenced by the Legendary Truth lore. I could be wrong. Maybe it is simply just something that's leading us to the Tribute Store in the comic shop. Let's see. But, I mean, Nixie, hello, do you want to be famous too? But, I mean, come on. Look at this. This is perfect for a haunted house. And I think that everything with those clues specifically was chosen to lead us to this direction, lead us to this conclusion that Legendary Truth will be making a big return. It's also one of the last years before we get another big anniversary. I think it just makes too much sense, to be honest. I'm super stoked about this one. I think this might be the best original, but we're gonna have to see. What do you guys think? Let me know if you guys think that this is Legendary Truth, if you think it's comics, or if you think it's something else. Hi, Aaron. Yes, I'm excited for Ghostbusters as well. I think Ghostbusters is going to be a lot better than Stranger Things was this year. I think they have a lot of cool effects. Speaking of cool effects, that's something I want to touch on here in just a little bit. Welcome anyone who is new. I hope you guys are all enjoying the stream so far. Sorry, it's a little haphazard and put together. I'm still trying to get my PC set up from all the repairs and power surges and weather and everything today, so I originally wasn't planning on doing this stream after everything that happened, but the storms passed earlier than expected, and I wanted to be able to at least talk about some of this stuff with you guys and maybe make some new friends and maybe talk with some old ones. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in chat. I might not answer here for a little bit. I might wait till we get to the end of discussing this spec map before I go a little more in depth with those, but I want to hear from you guys. It's a community, not just me. Let's see. Any tips and tricks for a year one? Oh, I have plenty for you. I'll get to those here in just a little bit, though. I want to move on to Soundstage 24B now, which everyone seems to think is Major Suites, which it potentially could be. But that's a lot of original returning content that's potentially happening this year without it being a major anniversary year. So I don't know if I'm necessarily sure on every single haunt being some type of sequel or requel or continuation of existing properties, but it is kind of interesting to note that pretty much any of the 4 originals on here could be just that. They could be sequels or they could be continuations. We don't know. That's the part of the fun of speculation, at least. But as far as the Major Suites theories go, I don't know if I necessarily buy it. Would it be fun? Hi, Nixie. Would it be an ironic coincidence given the infamous reputation of the Wonka experience that just opened? Yes, it would be very, very funny and very coincidental. But I just don't know if Major Suites, 1, has big enough of a pull, 2, that's a very technical environment when you've already got theoretically some other very technical aspects to be seen at the haunt. So that's a lot of money that I don't know if they'll necessarily have for a concept like that. Unless it's something more akin to Halloween where you're going through the suburban streets. Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. The end of Run, Blood, Sweat, and Fears God, 10 years ago, 9 years ago now, I feel old, was also prominently featured these hunters from Japan, I believe, that used giant candy-shaped weapons. I don't think there's any correlation to that, but I'm just putting that out there to say that just because something is the same as something before doesn't necessarily mean that they are related in any way. Can we please not knock over this everything? You know what? Y'all do what you want to do. Everyone say hi to the scaredy cats if you haven't already. They're causing havoc and hell just like normal and making my life as miserable as I can when I work. I sound really cynical tonight. I'm sorry. I'm normally not like that. What do you guys think about major suites? Yes? No? Maybe? Something completely unrelated? Aaron, if they do a Borchester, do you think they'll need... I don't know. So quick segue for that. My main kind of theory at the end of last year / beginning of this year was that this is the last year that HHN is going to be HHN before Epic Universe opens. Now, realistically, that shouldn't change too much. The only thing that is a factor in that is there's going to be Universal Monsters at Epic Universe and potentially also this year at HHN, or this could potentially have been their last year since this may have been a passing of the torch. I don't know if it's going to be... Why is Stream Elements deleting everything? I don't know what else you posted, Aaron. I'm going to have to...
Aaron said, hi, scaredy cats.
I don't know why... Once again, my spam filters apparently don't like anything. What are you talking about? But I don't know if we're going to get any icons next year, especially when an anniversary year theoretically should be... Is this 33 or 34? I don't even remember anymore. With an anniversary year coming soon, I think it's also going to be a full reset for HHN and kind of a new beginning to see how the event functions with Epic Universe also functioning nearby, if that makes sense. So we're going to have to see. Yeah, I'll have to look at that in a minute. Moving on to Fast and Furious now. Before Five Nights at Freddy's was kind of abolished from everyone's speculation lists, everyone thought it was going to be in this Fast and Furious queue. I don't think it's going to be. Let me get this straight first. And sit up so you know I'm serious. Five Nights at Freddy's does not need to come to HHN for it to be successful. Do I think it would have made an alright house and even a good house? Hell yeah, I think it would have been pretty cool if it was done right. But the thing is, The Last of Us would have been really cool if it was done right last year. Stranger Things 4 would have been really cool if it was done a little more right last year. You know what I mean? The expectations are somewhat... Well, the cat just knocked over my PC, so give me a second. Well, that was fun. But I don't know if Five Nights at Freddy's would have been anything more than surface level if it did show up. If it does, that's great, but I think there's plenty of other properties that Universal could use that could shine a little bit more. Plenty of other originals. You'll also notice, if you guys haven't already, with the film reels, we theoretically have... Is it a 6-4 split? 6-4 split with potentially an unknown IP. And that's not counting if one of these is potentially Universal Monsters, which is only like a quasi IP. At least in my mind. But... Do I have any idea for what might go in Fast and Furious? Not really, to be honest. I don't think it would be Abigail, because I don't think that's a type of haunt that they would be able to do in a small footprint. But, you know, I don't really know what they can do good in Fast and Furious at this point. It's just such a small and cramped layout that it's got to be something that can be done with, I don't want to say minimal effort, but minimal big ideas and minimal big scenes. I'm going to move on now to Sprung Tent 3, which I'm fairly certain is going to be either A Quiet Place or Silent Hill. Now, it's been up in the air kind of in the community which one this is going to be. Silent Hill did announce that there was going to be a new film in the series released theoretically next month from all of the last stuff that I read, but I haven't heard anything in that in ages, so I don't think that Silent Hill movie is coming out this year, and if it is, I'm not convinced enough by the studio that it's going to be good enough for HHN to try and pursue. But A Quiet Place does have a new movie coming out this year. I don't remember exactly when, but I know A Quiet Place Day One is coming out sometime this fall, I believe, which would be a good tie-in. But also, A Quiet Place has a bigger demographic right now. More people right now are likely to know what... more people right now are likely to know what A Quiet Place is than to know what Silent Hill is. Now, that might change in a couple of months because Silent Hill, on top of potentially this new crappy film that nobody knows if it exists anymore, Silent Hill 2 Remake is coming out for PS5. I think there's one or two other Silent Hill projects that are coming out this year, but they are zooming through. They are putting so much stuff out this year. So there's a chance that even non-gamers might actually learn what Silent Hill is just by the sheer amount of products that's being put out later on this year. Another thing that just personal anecdote, because I've heard a lot of people say on a lot of forums and just friends that I've talked to that Silent Hill wouldn't be possible, or not Silent Hill, A Quiet Place wouldn't be possible to do because you can never be quiet in a haunted house. Well, one, that's true, but two, you don't really need to have a fully silent haunted house to do something like A Quiet Place. I'm sure many of you guys have been to HHN before, and if you haven't, I'm sure you either been to a theme park and been on a dark ride, or been to some type of haunted house or some type of themed experience before. There's different volume dynamics between each scene. One scene's that has a lot of pneumatic air effects or animatronics or 3 actor triggers or anything like that. That's gonna be a lot louder than if you're going through a scene that only has the background music and a single actor trigger. So maybe A Quiet Place will never be completely quiet if it does come to the event, but those changes in volume dynamics are going to make it seem like it's quiet enough that it's going to be a drastic enough change that I don't really think anybody's going to notice it, at least in my personal opinion. You know, we all have our hopes and dreams and like our wish list for what we think a perfect haunted house is going to look like. And as much as we might like to convince ourselves that it's realistic, it isn't always. And I think that Universal could just do a stellar Quiet Place haunt, even without the fact that it won't be super, super quiet. Also, if you went last year, The Last of Us, and if you went in 29 and 30, Graveyard Games and Hill House, they all had sections where they used soundproofing fabric to make certain scenes feel a lot quieter and more tense. So that's also a possibility that could be used for a few different ones. Let's see, what did Pierce say? Are you convinced that Imaginary could steal for a last-minute pick? I think, honestly, Imaginary is gonna... Actually, I think any Blumhouse this year is going to depend on box office. I haven't paid too much attention to Imaginary, but didn't it already come out? I feel like it's already come out. Or I saw that it already came out. I'm going to Google it. But I just feel like a lot of these aren't going to have enough buzz to even be like the freaky part of a Horrors of Blumhouse anthology, if that makes sense. Imaginary. Ooh, 4.9 on IMDb. Okay, it had already come out. But, I mean, we're going to have to see. Do I think if there's going to be an Imaginary sequel, we could see something like the Chucky photo op with Chauncey? Yes, I do think that is a possibility. But I'm not necessarily convinced that Imaginary will be coming to the event even as a... whatever I was going to say. Even as like a lower totem Blumhouse haunt. There's plenty of other things that they could be doing this year, I think. I'm a bad streamer, I'll be honest. I did not research as much as I should have before I started the stream, given the weather issues and trying to set everything up again. So I really don't remember what else is on Blumhouse's slate this year. And if Five Nights at Freddy's is out, I don't know what else might be in, but when I do another more put together stream on Tuesday, I'm definitely going to discuss that. And I'll definitely do a little more research to see what it could possibly be. Now, one other thing I didn't talk about when I started saying these sprungs is there are 4 sprung tents and not just 3. Or not just 2. Good lord, I was looking at sprung 3 when I said that. So that's a really big and that's a really exciting development, actually, because the tent houses are generally the best. If you look at a lot of the fan polls and guest feedback from over the years, the tent houses each year, normally, if they don't rank in the top, they're normally in the top half. And overall, if you were to ask people's favorite haunt, a good portion of them are going to say that it was one of those tents. Now, they might not necessarily look and function the same as the ones that we have, but it's more exciting to know that we're going to have 4 haunts that have space constraints that make the creators be a little more particular with the way that they execute everything, instead of more parade buildings where you know you've got all that space and your imagination might be able to get a little bit of the best of you doing that. The only bad thing is, at least from what I've seen, is those extra 2 sprung tents. Can I go on, let's see here. I'm gonna do this because I don't know if I pull up Google Maps if it's gonna automatically go onto my home address, and I don't want to get doxxed. I mean, y'all can come steal stuff, but we don't have anything. I don't make any money off of this yet, so we're still kind of poor. But I appreciate everyone for supporting me because we're getting that much closer to being able to make this a viable life option in the future. So I really do appreciate that, everyone. The more support I get means the bigger and better and crazier things that I can do. And I want to do some really wild stuff with this channel, but we just got to wait to get there first. All right. Moving back to the HHN discussion, theoretically, now that I have Google Maps pulled up, here is going to be our... here's going to be where the back haunts normally are. You've got your 2 sprung haunts right here, like normal. Here is going to be the parade warehouse where Universal Monsters is, the original parade warehouse, at least. And then The Last of Us last year, B108, right back here. So, and then Exposition Boulevard-ish right here. This is where the line for Dr. Oddfellow's Twisted Origins started. So you went there all the way to Men in Black, blah, blah, blah. So, with the rumored removal of these 2 parade buildings for various projects, and our 2 new tents being put right back here, which means that we're either going to have to walk all that extra length for 2 more haunts, or there's going to be a lot more wild and crazy crossovers and stuff happening around here. Luckily, DreamWorks should be open by the time HHN starts, so they should be able to be used for queue lines. I don't see any reason they wouldn't be able to put a house portal in for rights reasons or whatever. I think they should be able to, I think they'd be able to do anything for like operations wise that they need to. They just wouldn't be able to put actors or anything that was actually part of the event. You know what I mean? Stuff that you would pay to see. I don't think they can do any of that in DreamWorks. But like I said, I'm all excited. We really haven't had a good new venue in a while. Sprung tents theoretically should have their own type of free-flowing layout. It shouldn't be something that's constrained like Fast and Furious was. Even Disaster beforehand had those giant props that they had to work around into the layouts. Granted, they weren't anything as crazy as some of the other places. Shrek, also another theater that they had limited space and weird things that they had to do. So I'm really excited to see what we actually do with theoretically 2 venues that are being created just for HHN haunts. They should have a pretty good flow to them, and they shouldn't really have many restrictions that the designers have to work around, and hopefully with any luck they're not going to flood every year every time it rains. But I guess that remains to be seen. I had one other thing I was going to say. Oh yeah, the one other thing, going back to Silent Hill / A Quiet Place in Sprung 3, a really, really big part of the Silent Hill, if you played the games or even watched the one movie, because we don't talk about the second, is the ash that falls from the sky. Now, I don't know about these new Sprung tents, but I don't recall in the current Sprung tents having ever seen them do any type of weather effects like snow or fog, like heavy fog or anything like that. So is it a potential thing that they do outside in a facade? Yeah, 100% they could do that. But it would be a lot more controlled if they were able to do it inside. And for those of you who went last year and did The Last of Us, the ash that they used for Silent Hill in 2012 was that same type of like bubble foam material that came down. Excuse me. So does that necessarily disqualify Silent Hill from being in a Sprung tent? Absolutely not. But history does not lead me to believe that they would want to do a wild turn and portray some effects they haven't portrayed before in locations they haven't portrayed before, if that makes sense. I don't know. I think each day for the last week, I've spent about 45 minutes not thinking about HHN before I go to bed, because I've been working on trivia videos and everything else. So this is all that's on my mind right now, and thousands of pages of the wiki just kind of, and everything I'm trying to think about now is just kind of melting back in. Okay, let's go back to what Amanda said. Can we see anything Lisa Frankenstein? No, I wish, but no comedic. I don't even think it would work as a comedy haunt, because there weren't really any good set pieces or good deaths. Spoiler alert, I guess. Sorry for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. Very good movie. It was perfect background while you're cleaning or while you're just having a lazy day playing Animal Crossing. Perfectly fun movie. There just wasn't anything big or memorable to the point where I think it would need to be a haunted house.
Agree to disagree.
Okay, fight me. I like Diablo Cody. I think it would be a good haunt, but I don't think it would work at HHN. Also, this is my tissues. Don't judge me. I promise. Just because my mouse pad looks like this does not mean that's what the toilet paper is for. Oh! Hey, thanks, babe. That's actually a good suggestion. Could the Fast Haunt be Strangers Chapter 1? Yeah, we can talk about that real quick before we go back. Theoretically, spoiler alert, your boy hasn't seen the first Strangers film or the second one, so but from what I do remember, don't they take place in a big mansion?
It's a normal suburban house.
I thought it was a big lake house or something.
No, it's a normal.
I thought it was a rich white people place. Anyways,
it's a house like we have.
I just said we're not rich. Now you're gonna make everyone think that we. But I think that's actually a very possible possibility. I think the Strangers Part 2. I need to finish getting all this stuff set up. I think the Strangers Part 2 also comes out no, not the other Strangers Part 2, the new one, because it's a 3-part series, and I think the second one comes out around the time HHN starts, or early next year. But I would say Strangers is definitely a possibility. We kind of saw that suburban house mansion feel with Freaky 2 years ago now. Yeah. So it's definitely one of the more possible environments to do inside of a smaller venue like that, but I don't know. Fleur, what sets Horror Nights 24 apart from previous events? Well, I don't necessarily know yet, but hi Nixie, judging by this SPEC map, maybe a lot of sequels to original content in some capacity, but mostly it's going to be those new sprung tents. Those I think are going to kind of make or break if the event is stronger or weaker from years before. If these specs turn out, which do you think the non-scary heart? Aaron, I'm not going to tell you because then won't go through the scary ones with me. That's a good question. A lot of people might say Abigail, if Abigail does pan out, because little girl, but I think Abigail's going to be like Exorcist. If it shows up, it's going to take everyone by surprise, and it's going to be really good. I think it's probably going to be Ghostbusters, to be honest. 80s nostalgia, big effects, hopefully lots of puppets, which are probably going to be visible from afar, maybe even some projections and stuff. I think it's going to be a good haunt, but I don't think it's going to be that scary. Now, I know you guys are here because you want to hear speculation more than likely, so sorry for some segues. I'm going to move on. Remember when I said I was going to move on? Sorry, I got distracted by a cat. Come here, Pixie. Come say hi to everyone. Yeah, I know. Alright, go down to Sprung 2, Unknown Original. Again, can't comment. Unless that's the Dr. Oddfellow versus Jack haunt that I was talking about, that somehow hasn't been speculated before. It's kind of hard to speculate on what an unknown original could be. Could be anything from a... Okay, here you go. Well, you gotta jump forward instead of sideways, missus. It could be anything from their version of an IP they didn't get, like The Conjuring or something. They could do a riff off of that. They could do a riff off of Five Nights at Freddy's if they didn't get the rights for it this year. It could be just another original concept that's been shelved, a sequel haunt that's been shelved for years, a concept that hasn't fit with any other theme or event icon that they've done recently. The possibilities are literally endless, so I'm not going to speculate too much on that. But Sprung 1, I am a little bit curious about. I'm going to move ahead to Sprung 4 because this is Nightmare on Elm Street. I never moved back. This should still be, yeah. I think the picture is on here. Also, all my caps lock's still on from when I was working. The logo or the whatever, Sleepy Star Sun Moon, Jesus, Moon and Stars, I believe are the exact same as the Dreamwell logo, or Sleepwell, yeah, logo that they used on the 2007 haunt. So it's got the 2 and the 1. And this has got the 2 and the 1. So I think it's pretty safe to say that's going to be a Nightmare on Elm Street. The biggest question is it going to be just the original, or is it going to be a rehash? I think it's going to be just the original. I don't think that Freddy vs. Jason was successful enough with its amalgamation, tons of vignettes of the whole series. I don't think that was successful enough for them to warrant doing a big Freddy montage. And low-key, I'm going to sound like a boomer, I know, but I don't think that many people really care about Freddy right now or even know who he is. If you tell teenagers, oh, Freddy is coming, they're going to think, oh, Five Nights at Freddy's? No. People don't, like, A Nightmare on Elm Street just isn't relevant. Not because it's not good, but Wes Craven isn't making films anymore. Robert Englund really isn't making films anymore. Sad. The remake sucked. There haven't been any sequels for however many years it's been, over a decade. Almost 15 years at this point, I think. Like, if they want to do Freddy, they've got to do the original because people know at least that it's scary. And they have to do a haunt that shows that Freddy is scary because nobody's going to care about it if they're going in and they don't know what Freddy looks like. Sorry about my soapbox. The more I said, the more I realized that I'm really old, and it really has been a long time since I've heard anyone but one of my really close friends mention Five Nights at Freddy's. A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, man, that's crazy. Anyways, final haunt that we are speculating on is this Minotaur. I know I keep saying Dr. Oddfellow, but We saw Minotaur creation in Dr. Oddfellow's haunt last year. Maybe this is a key, and he's got the two spears crossing behind him, simulating or insinuating battle. Maybe he's on Dr. Oddfellow's army and it's Jack's army versus Dr. Oddfellow's army. Jack's Maniacs versus Dr. Oddfellow's Chimera creation and clowns. That was a lot of alliteration. I don't know. But I will say that there really hasn't been a period house in a while. I mean, Nightingale's Blood Pit and 29, I guess, was kind of, but there really hasn't been something that's super, super inspired solely by mythology. Hades' Gates of Ruin in HHN 20, HHN 20 in 2010, oh lord, my first HHN, was very focused on being scary and being very detailed and being something like, it was almost kind of like Legends Collide, like the Mirror Maze and like that middle section. It was kind of like that, except for with Greek mythology. But it's been a while since it's been attempted in any way, shape, or form at the event. I certainly think that there's time for it. I don't think this correlates to anything like Poseidon's Fury. Not because I don't think Poseidon's Fury would work as a haunt, but I just don't think that the nostalgia is there for it right now. And I think that there's a few more things HHN needs to figure out how to do before they can successfully attack a Poseidon's Fury haunt. Even though I do think they have most of the technology available to recreate a lot of those effects, I just don't know if they would put in the money to do it, if that makes sense. But I am speculating something mythology related, not necessarily a sequel to Gates of Ruin, Hades' Gates of Ruin, I don't know. But I think it's going to be something with a little more original creature based, if that makes sense. Something like Scarecrow, where the monster, or El Chupacabra is a good one. Fiesta de Chupacabras is a good one, where the titular monster is the focus of that specific haunt. I'm hoping that's what we get with Sprung 1, and it is a Minotaur or some type of famous creature from mythology. Or maybe it's actually God of War, and we're all just getting punked or something. That'd be pretty cool. And can you guys see Pixie on my lap? I can't tell. She climbed up to say hi to everyone. She's so dark that I can't tell when she's in pictures half the time. And she blends in with with my desk and everything. And my black sweatpants that I'm wearing. But that is it for my speculation on these 10 haunts. I'm not going to really talk about the shows because I'm pretty sure Nightmare Fuel is coming back in some capacity, and I need to do a little more research on the Animal Actors stage because from what I remember, that thing's got a pretty decent set already built into it, so I don't know if they would be able to do a lot of dancing or a lot of anything other than video projection and or hosting, or going back to the late 2000s, early 2010s where they had magic shows in there that did minimalist stuff. I didn't see Brian Brushwood, but I heard he was pretty good. So Tuesday when I do a stream, I'll talk a little bit more about that. If you guys do have anything that you want to ask me or talk about before I head off, drop it in the chat here. I don't know if Zombie Chris is still streaming in an hour or in 10 minutes like I saw posted earlier, but if he is, I want to be off by then so you guys can go support him, and so I can go support him as well. The only thing I think I need to address was asked earlier if I had any tips and tricks for a year one. I have plenty. I actually have a video about it that's going to be slightly dated at this point, but the information in it is still valid. With having DreamWorks open again this year, and 2 Sprung tents, I'm not necessarily sure on the layout of how everything is going to be, but I will say that doing Stay and Scream is a necessity. Make sure you have a daytime ticket, get into the park even at 4:59 p.m. before they close for the day, because you'll be able to stay in one of the holding areas and then get released into a select haunted house or even houses earlier. Normally, I would always do the one that was down by The Simpsons. There's also one that's in New York, but typically that's going to be the busiest one because there's more haunts and normally higher profile haunts in that area. But now they've also introduced one in Richter's Burger, which is right across from Fast and Furious. And out of the 10 or so nights that I went last year, I had the most success doing that Richter's Stay and Scream. We were able to get into Chucky pretty quickly, and then by that point, Darkest Deal and Dr. Oddfellows were already open. We could jump in those with no wait, and usually Universal Monsters was still like at 15:30 at that point, and we could do standby for that. So we already had 4 of the haunts done around the time that the event actually opened for guests. So that was a big advantage. Don't waste your time on doing the quote-unquote popular house first is another one of my big tips. Theoretically, this year, going off of this, it's probably going to be Ghostbusters or maybe a Nightmare on Elm. Maybe, I don't know. I'd put my money on Ghostbusters first, Quiet Place second, Nightmare on Elm Street third, but everybody's going to go to that haunt. It is going to get up to a 2-hour wait like that. It is going to not move from that 2-hour wait almost all night until about the last hour or so when it's finally going to be something more manageable like a 45 or so. Unless it's like the one thing you want to see at HHN and you will die if you don't see it, don't worry about doing it first. Do it at the end of the night when there's almost no wait. Very rarely are any of the haunts going to close early for technical issues or whatever. So you shouldn't have too much of an issue saving it for the end of the night, but you don't want to waste the first 2 hours of your event standing in the blistering sun for a haunt that realistically might not even be that good. And with that also being said, even though I recommend Stay and Scream getting there early, I also recommend staying as late as you can, especially till park close, because a lot of the haunts in the back of the park, most of these sprung tents, theoretically, and some of these sound stages are going to be 30 minutes or less, for a significant amount of time. So get as much done as you can when the park first opens before the lines get up. Take it easy for a couple of hours, do some haunts if you can do them, do some rides if you can do them, try some food, just relax because it's Florida and it's hot. But once those crowds start to die down, that's when you're going to want to get that second wind and get a bunch of stuff in. And that also applies if you get Express. Even if you have Express, that's your backup. That's your second run through. You can still do almost all of these haunts with a short wait time and then do them again with Express. So you're getting your step count, but you're also getting your money and you're going to notice stuff that you didn't see on the first run. So if I had to, what would be the word, condense my tips, that's one of the biggest things for you to have a good night and to get everything done. Another one that's not necessarily HHN related, but stay at a Universal hotel. It's so much nicer to be able to just take a bus and get to your room and plop than it is to have to drive anywhere or wait for a longer shuttle or walk to another hotel. Like, the convenience of being on site is great. Cabana Bay has their restaurant open until 3 a.m. on event nights, I believe, an hour after HHN ends. Even if some of it's just grab and go, you can still get food after the event. You can plop on your bed. It makes your life so much easier. And you're normally not really spending that much more money for the amenities that you're getting. At least if you're at something like Dockside or Surfside or Cabana Bay. Maybe even Aventura. I haven't stayed at Aventura in years, so I don't know what their rates are. But anyways, I think that's about it. Aaron, I know you sent something that I didn't see. I know you'll still go through the scary haunts. For those of you who don't know, I trained Aaron at Universal when we worked there together, and what was it? It was HHN 2016, wasn't it? Yeah, HHN 26. I took her through her very first haunted house, which I think was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and she hates chainsaws, so I'll never live that down. Yikes. Do you think we'll ever get another rapper artist themed attraction? At some point, yeah, I think we will. Do I know when? Absolutely not. The Weeknd, I don't follow that type of music. I'm a metalhead, so most of my bands don't people don't know who the music that I listen to. But like, it seems to me like The Weeknd's rise was pretty meteoric over a couple of years. Certainly not enough to be like, yeah, that guy's going to be able to get his own HHN attraction. But I certainly think there's plenty of options, not only just in the metal community of the bands that I listen to, but even someone like Lady Gaga, or if we get another Billie Eilish type or something, those have the potential to... Hi, Nixie, welcome back. Those have the potential to make it. It all just depends on how big they get and how open their contracts are. I think when it comes down to it. Oh, thank God, Aaron. I'm glad that I got that right because I'm so old. Like, HHN 26 was 8 years ago. Like, I can hardly remember 2 weeks ago, and now I have to remember HHN from 8 years ago? Like, oh my God. Oh. God. I'm just having more and more of an existential crisis every day. But I guess with that being said, I'm going to log off. Like I said, I worked 10 hours on HHN trivia today, and it's almost done. End of the month, folks. HHN Trivia Episode 1. Probably going to be bi-weekly releases for a little bit until I can get a little more caught up and get a more streamlined schedule and I can get a better system in place for making them. But I aim to do them weekly as soon as I can. So if you guys want to test your knowledge or just hang out with me and watch me nerd out about HHN while I make some memes and stuff, perfectly fine. I'm A-okay with that. 28th, I think, is when I'm planning on getting that released. So 2 weeks from now. That just means there's going to be some special surprises, and that just means more content for you later on in the year, even if it's not coming out right now. Other than that, I'm going to keep working because I love doing this and I want to do this for the rest of my life. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you everyone for subscribing. Thank you everyone for just spending an hour of your night with me here. I really do appreciate it. I want to make crazy horror content that you guys can't find anywhere else. I don't know if any of y'all watched the Dead Meat Awards last week, but eventually I would love to do something like that for Halloween events. But it all starts with you guys being here while I'm still a small creator and giving me that extra click and that extra attention instead of somebody who's a little more well-known, and I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, everyone. I'll be back on Tuesday. Check the community tab for times because I don't quite know yet. But we'll go over this stuff maybe in a little more depth and hopefully a little more interaction and me doing my research and knowing what I'm talking about instead of just trying to zoom through some points on a last-minute stream. I'm going to post a link for my Discord in the description here as soon as I end this stream. Feel free to join, talk with me about HHN, talk about SPEC, talk about horror, just make a new friend. And with that, I think Zombie Chris is theoretically doing an HHN stream right now. If he is, that's where I'm going to be heading, and I hope to see you guys back here soon, and go support Zombie Chris and Dreamport Productions. They're great. Love you guys. See ya. Huh?